Welcome back, everyone. This is John from Cloud Tech Inside. In today's session, we'll be talking about GenAI as a service. So, what is GenAI as a service? I've heard of software as a service, platform as a service, but GenAI as a service is trending right now. It is simply hosting the developed GenAI application for any needs like data analysis, document reading, summarization, hosting it on a cloud platform, and exposing it to the user via a simple web application or a simple URL that they can type in and access the application, the models behind the scene to run their task. And nowadays, I've seen a subscription model where the user can subscribe to these applications and or they can use their own compute, but mostly subscription model, adding more revenue to the existing revenue stream within the organization. So how does this work? So Gen AI as a service, where the application, the Gen AI application is hosted on a cloud platform like AWS. And then again, the UI is exposed either via containers or a front end server and expose that to the user. So understand that there will be many users across the organization, and based on your privacy and security requirements, you want to isolate certain components within these architecture. And that's what we're going to discuss in this session: how to isolate, keep the data secure, but still make sure that users can access and none of the data or the conversation between the users are exchanged or mixed up. It's very critical to understand. It's it's very important to have the right isolation to make the application more private and secure. Let's quickly take a look at the architecture as well as architectural patterns involved in the isolation piece. So let's see how the GenAI architecture looks like. So the GenAI as a service is hosted on AWS, and the multiple users are accessing this application across the world. And let me put some additional user just to show the user count, like multiple users. And once the users can access the web applications through a URL, and the URL can be hosted on AWS Lambda or a container service, and make sure that it can scale based on the user count. So let's add a front-end UI piece to the mix, and this is how it would look like. So the main front-end component is the web application, which is exposed to the users. That's how they can see, visualize the application and use the application and the models behind it through the web application. So this web application is more of the web page or the URL. And the first type of architectural pattern is the pool deployment, where the web application is shared across all the users. So this is a common pattern that I've seen. And if the requirement has strict isolation needs, that's when the people avoid having a pool of application. Instead, they go for a silo deployment. The silo deployment pattern is a pattern where each users will have their own web applications. It can be for personalized settings, or it can be for security reasons, and then privacies. All the interactions are captured separately and handled behind the scene in a separate isolated environment. And the next component comes is the storage or knowledge base. Based on the requirement, if there is a knowledge base requirement, then you can use this component pattern for knowledge base as well as storage. So the how it looks like is, if there is a knowledge base that can be shared across the users, you can use one knowledge base, and that can be scaled and used across different users. And then if there are specific needs, like if the user wants to create their own knowledge base within the ecosystem, so it clearly needs a good separation, a good isolation to keep the data that the user uploads onto the web application or the GenAI as a service should be kept secure in a separate isolated environment, so that none of the data gets spilled over or can be accessed by the other users within the pool. So that is something very important to handle. This pattern can be used for either knowledge base or storage, like a database, can secure some of those past historical interactions, which can be created in an isolated environment so that all the interactions are separate from the users. And the last piece of the puzzle, how to keep the models isolated. And this is how the different patterns where you can share the models across different users. So which means 1,000 users can use one model and get the information that they're looking for the LLM. In such cases, they are using the out of the box model and they are unable to customize the model. If they customize it, it's going to affect the entire 1,000 users. Whereas if the customers want to customize their model, tweak the model, fine tune the model with their own data, they want to keep it separate and proprietary within their organization, that's when you use tenant specific models. So this is going to be like, let's say user pool one or user one can tweak the LLM model one, and they can store it within the application and reuse it based on their needs, and can securely separate it from the pool of user two, which it can be an institution completely. And that particular institution can use their own LLM2, tweak it, fine tune it the way they want, and make it more very specific to their use case. In this way, the models are also separate. None of the proprietary information or the data is shared or accessed by other users. So these are the three main components. Definitely, there is more details to it. Just want to start with the high level information and then deep dive into each and every component in the following videos. At a high level, the isolation needs will vary based on the use case as well as the requirements around GenAI as a service. Typically, we divide patterns into soft isolation and hard isolation based on the privacy, data security needs. I will create more videos, a deep dive into some of these components, how isolation is possible, and what are the other benefits of multi-tenant architecture within the GenAI as a service space. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for the latest information. Signing out, John.